for 200 plus years, and we get to be alive at a time to see it fall. I believe in the power of one person working as a team with other Christian patriots can have massive impact in reversing this ungodly culture. I believe that we have an omniscient, omnipresent...
This meeting is being recorded.
...that has put his hands on this moment in time to deny the timeline of the enemy and is about to heal our land. This is Rick, your host, and I believe that God has called me to empower Christian patriots with truth. Join us now for the Blessed to Teach show, and let's see what God is doing today.
Deception floods our airwaves, but Faith and Freedom TV fights back with truth. Our bold content, news, shows, Bible teachings, worship, and films shines with biblical conviction and patriotic courage, free from globalist lies. We empower Christian patriot creators to share faith and liberty. Access thousands of videos on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, Android, and iOS. Join the battle at faithandfreedom.tv.
Welcome, it's Rick, B2T here. We're going to be empowering Christian patriots with truth the next few hours. The first hour on this channel, the second hour on Word and Worship channel. Again, you'll find that on either Faith and Freedom TV platform or Rumble. And right now we're live on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Rumble and the Faith and Freedom TV. What I just talked about is that we have a ton of new content providers, so make sure you download Faith and Freedom TV on your mobile phone as well as your TV. Epstein text exposed, we're going to be talking about. Also, this CAIR funding to Hamas supporters, right? A Muslim group basically causing troubles on our universities, becoming very, very obvious and exposed. That's going to be wild. And again, the second hour, we're going to be talking about hearing from God. We're going to get stories from Amanda and Donna Clement, Manny Johnson, many others, and what I've been hearing. And so really, this is day 6 of a 7-day teaching series on hearing from God. So don't miss that. Again, you'll have to go to the other Word and Worship channels, Word with the N, Worship. All right, let's dig into some of this breaking news. Guys, I'll tell you what, we're not going to be bored anytime soon. I can tell you that. That is for sure. Look at it's great to see Linda on YouTube there, as well as T. Mitchell and Queenie and Days of Elisha on Rumble. Thank you guys for all joining us here. There are a bunch of people backstage, Diane, Teresa, others. So, hey, what we want to do now is just dig into what's happening with Trump. He's expected to sign the bill releasing the Epstein files today. Boy, was that a trap or what? Get everybody on the left and right all wanting them released. And it's happening. So President Trump, House Speaker Michael Johnson, Representative Clay Higgins, House Republicans, House Democrats, Senator Durbin, and the United States Senate, and Jeffrey Epstein, right? That's all involved. And the bill is expected to sign on Wednesday, November 19th. And again, what they actually release versus what they can't release is going to be dependent on that 3 tiers I was telling you about. You got a tier that's just like, hey, what is going to be in the actual criminal RICO and in the criminal trial, so you don't taint the jury. So you can't release that stuff. But everything else can, right? How are you going to wake up the public? I think that's what's coming, as well as what's going to be in military tribunals. You can release that as well because you can't taint a military tribunal trial. So I think that's going to be awesome. So let's continue to follow where this leads and what the new information we get. That's going to be fun to report on. Here's this Tosco Austin from on the X platform, says, CBS bombshell. Epstein accuser ghostwriter spills the goods. Virginia Giuffre, who obviously has passed away now, very suspicious circumstances, called Donald Trump her hero, not a villain. Isn't that interesting? So she worked for Donald Trump. Her dad worked for Donald Trump. They knew they kicked Epstein out. She got caught up in that ugly stuff. But she even said that Donald Trump never even flirted with her, right, during her testimony. And now here's a ghostwriter confirming all this that was writing her book. So ghostwriter Amy Wallace, who co-wrote Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, says Giuffre expressed strong support for Donald Trump during their talks. Giuffre believed Trump would release the Epstein files and expose the hidden truths. And so Trump was always, he campaigned on this. He was going to release these files. He just had to wait to instead of it being criticized, it was going to be actually demanded from the left, right? And that is 5D chess all the way to see how this happened. See, he campaigns on releasing the Epstein files. They're scared, and they go, hey, maybe he was involved because now he doesn't want to release him. So maybe we should release him. We'll get Trump. And all the Trump derangement syndrome people have been screaming from the housetop, release the Epstein files. That's why I say be careful who you are lambasting, right? Because we all love Trump. We all need to support Trump and be unified in that. And so when he goes against MTG and he goes against Massey and he goes against Rand, he may be a little irritated with him, but I think it's part of a potential part of this whole 5D's chess of getting people to demand it, right? The Democrats' desperate scramble to smear Trump as Epstein's pervy pal is crashing harder than Clinton apology tour. Giuffre's own words via the ghostwriter Amy Wallace on CBS Sunday Morning, and this is funny because it was on mainstream Mockingbird media, right? Torched the hoax. She was a huge Trump fan for vowing to release the files, found him kind of at Mar-a-Lago and never accused him of any wrongdoing in the ring. Catch the ghostwriter's scoop on the CBS Sunday Morning show. In the meantime, the vote to release the full files is on Capitol Hill, so I think it's going to be coming out. Here's a little bit of what she said.
Election.
In your discussion?
Oh, she absolutely did. I was in Australia in October, a month before, weeks before the presidential election. She was a huge Trump fan. Two reasons for that. One, she had met Trump on numerous occasions because she worked at Mar-a-Lago Spa in Florida, which he owns, and her father also worked there and knew Trump pretty well. So she was introduced to Trump. He was kind to her. The second reason she wanted Trump to be president was because he campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. And she was excited about that. So yes, we talked about Trump a lot.
As a crusader to release the Epstein files, in that sense.
She was very excited that he had made that one of the main planks of his campaign. And she felt validated by it.
But she never talked about him in any sense that he was involved in any of this.
No, he was not, as far as she knew, and again, she was there for 2+ years. But as far as she knew, he was not involved in the ring of trafficking that Epstein was working.
Woo! Backfiring on them everywhere. So not only do we get the emails that I showed you a couple of days ago that showed that Epstein despised Trump and thought he might have been the mole, if you will. And he was, guys. That's what we're going to find out. He was an informant against Epstein. And so at last, this is going to backfire on the deep state in a big way, right? Because they want him gone, obviously. Hey, guys, as you're looking at gifts for the holidays, for Christmas, honoring the Lord, boy, we have all kinds of things on the Blessed Teach shorts. Go to blessedteach.com/store. Blessedteach.com/store just has links to all these things. One thing I wanted to point out was this Kure biblical healing oil. Great gift, guys. So again, go to blessedteach.com/store. What this has in it is this oil of Elijah. It's basically healing and anointing oil. And they've got all kinds of different packages you can get and different types of oil that are more specific. Some of it has frankincense and myrrh, where they take the smoke and actually infuse it into the oil. So you basically got healing properties as well as anointing oil. So if you want anointing oil that has healing properties, this is it. I think you guys will enjoy it. Again, go to blessed2teach.com/store. There's all kinds of other things that you can look out there as well, such as the coffee I drink, the telomere that Sherry Tenpenny talks about, the My Pillow stuff. There's great mattresses and huge bed springs that are just beautiful at My Pillow that you might like. The water filters by Valera. So anyway, go make sure that you are supporting this ministry while you're Christmas shopping. Go to blessed2teach.com/store. blessed2teach.com, blessed is the number 2 teach.com/store. That keeps sticking. That's really frustrating. I need to fix my lower third there. That doesn't seem to roll like it's supposed to. But here we go. Hey, and also tomorrow night, Larry Ballard's coming on. Man, he is spouting some truth. So is Sherry Tenpenny on the medical cartel. And then after Thanksgiving, we have this Gianon coming on. So don't miss the Mondays and Thursday shows where we have that going on. Here's clandestine. When they saw this royal treatment of MBS coming in from Saudi Arabia, here's an Anon's take on what this is really about. He's saying the world doesn't know it yet, but the relationship between Trump and MBS will be remembered as the alliance that changed the world. Think the sword dance in 2017. You remember that when he went there and they capitulated to Trump, and they did the sword dance, which they don't do for anybody except for very special people. And then a month after Trump's visit, King Salman rescinded the crown from Mohammed bin Nayef in favor of MBS. This led to the infamous Saudi corruption purge of 2017 and consolidation of power, money within the Saudi royal family. Nayef and his faction were essentially neutralized. This was huge because you had massive money from Saudi Arabia that was buying all these companies. They had a huge share of Twitter, as an example, and they were buying off politicians right and left. So we have a problem with that, with the big pharma and big banking, but they are also doing it through Saudi Arabia. And obviously there's some of that happening with the Mossad and the intelligence agencies as well, no question about it. But our politicians are completely bought off, and they were bought off by Saudi Arabia, and those strings were cut. And they were talking about that. There's 3 major triangles talking about Saudi Arabia, talking about United States and England as the 3 things that really need to be cut out of the cabal. And the one that's been cut completely in 2017 was in Saudi Arabia. Why is this significant to U.S.? Because in 2015, Trump himself accused Nayef faction via Prince Alawid Tinbal. That's the guy, this Prince Alawid is a guy who hated Trump and called him out, and basically were buying the politicians and funded a lot of Obama stuff and owned part of Twitter. He was talking about buying and controlling U.S. politicians, right? This is clearly what's happening. So Trump, along with King Salman and MBS, took out the corrupt fraction within the Saudi royal family and have been working together since to create the new world and a peaceful Middle East, which included neutralizing Iran's nuclear capabilities. And the world had no idea it was happening. So this is, you probably saw the list of the things that this included them buying it. It was a bunch of our military equipment, included a nuclear deal for civilian energy, and many other things that and then bumping up from $600 billion investment they had committed to already to $1 trillion. So $1 trillion of investment coming from Saudi Arabia into our economy. This is part of the plan to stop the deep state from destroying America, because that's what they need to get to the one world government. They can't have they cannot have an America that's isolationist, that basically loves and has nationalism. That is not going to work. That populism movement will destroy the one world government plans. And wow, that is why they have trying to take him out for good. And I am gonna start putting some comments up for you guys to let me know what you think about some of this. This is America First. Go Max. Make him a sandwich. Christ is King. Amen. So that's MB from YouTube. So we're getting strikes on YouTube. We'll see how much long we last. T. Mitchell's talking about the sword dance. So go ahead and text in your. I can put stuff from Backstage Zoom, from the Rumble channel, as well as on YouTube, because like T. Mitchell there was from Rumble and YouTube was MB. So let me know what you guys are thinking about some of this fun stuff that we're looking at. Here's Crimea and Donbass. Trump plans ask Ukraine to cede additional territory for security guarantee. So basically saying, hey, if you and there's a lot of part of Ukraine, by the way, that are Russian speaking and want to be with Russia. And people remember, it was a complete coup that the Obama administration did in the CIA and in taking over a lot of Ukraine when they had a legitimately elected person, right, in a complete color revolution. And so this will lead to a future peace if you have the Russian-speaking people who want to be in Russia to be there versus being forced to be part of the biggest criminal organization. One of the dirtiest and most criminal was the Ukrainian government and what they were doing. Obviously, that's why they fired the prosecutor when Biden said that you're not going to get your $1 billion of funding if you don't do this, right? So there's this whole pay-for-play thing's been going on for quite some time. So this is interesting. This has taken this long, but this is one that the deep state does not want solved. They've given Trump so many wins with these eight peace agreements in 8 months type thing, and they need Gaza to just explode and be horrible. They need this war here. They can't. Otherwise, it's going to look like Trump was way too successful going into the midterms. They need to change that, right? So it's going to be quite interesting as we move forward on this. Here's another ex post talking about this NOTAM, and this is like showing you guys that there's kinetic things going on in the Caribbean. There's going to be probably attacks on Venezuela. And remember, Venezuela is a lot more than just drug boats coming in. This is a criminal cartel that controls all the cartels in most of the cartels, I should say, in Mexico. And they also are the ones that control our selections, not our elections, right? The selection machines. These selection machines in 71 countries plus the United States, that have allowed them to switch and put their cabal puppets in all these nations worldwide. When that comes out, and this is part of the reason why we're having Maduro under the crosshairs. The United States warns of a potentially dangerous situation in San Juan, FIR, and requests extreme caution due to increase in state operations. And so this is all this stuff happening around the Caribbean and what's going on down near Venezuela. All right, this is the main story I wanted to get to, and this is Plaskett. Wow, just crazy. But you have House GOP members making sure that she doesn't get censored. It's just really sad to see nobody's held accountable for what they do, right? So they've now caught her, and it's pretty crazy. Was actually getting texts from Epstein himself when they were bringing in people trying to smear Trump, right? And so no consequences of her Epstein collaboration. So here she is. She was actually texting him, and she didn't even understand what to ask. And he basically, and she ends up asking about just that during the testimonies here. If anyone wonders why we so often cannot have the nice things when we thought we'd finally voted for and won the chance to have, this is a shining example of it. The why right here, because again, the rhinos all let her off the hook, and she did not end up getting censored. So what was the basis of your statement that Donald Trump is a good friend of Jeffrey's? And Guffrey said, Jeffrey told me that Donald Trump is a good friend of his. And so that's what she said. But then she found out later that was, and then through the emails, that was just the opposite, right? So the book contains no allegations. This is Guffrey's book that we talked about with the ghostwriter, right? The book contains no allegations of any wrongdoing on the part of Trump, nor does it contain any claim that Guffrey was at Epstein's home while Trump was there. And this is kind of goes. This article is large, and you'll enjoy it. So you'll see it in the show notes. So make sure you sign up for those show notes. Remember, it's real easy to sign up for the show notes. All you do is go to blessed2teach.com and then sign up for the free show notes, and you'll get a link to everything I show you. That's one thing I'm proud of that I've done for 8 years now, is line up my tabs and make sure you guys get everything that I'm reporting on, right? So that you guys know exactly what my sources are, because you see every single thing. Just sign up for the show notes to get all my sources for free. Washington Democrats oversee the Epstein files for 4 years. They didn't release them. They didn't push Biden DOJ for action. They didn't lift a finger for the victims. I think he says it best. Let's let him talk about it.
This should have been done in a much more careful manner, and it was not. And I'm going to point out again, when the authors were asked to fix it, they said they weren't interested in doing that. Okay, why? Because this is a raw and obvious political exercise. Again, I'm just going to leave you with this question. You should go ask them all. If you were so concerned about the Epstein files and protecting the victims, why didn't you do a darn thing about it for the 4 years of the Biden administration? All this stuff was sitting in a warehouse, and nobody said a word about it. They didn't care. Now they're doing it. We all know why. Because they're trying to attack President Trump. That's it.
Yep, but that was the trap. That was the trap that happened. It was the backfire. How exciting. So this, again, is a pretty great article, by the way, if you have time to really dig through this. In several messages from 2018 to 2019, married former Harvard President Summers, 70, confided in his wingman Epstein about a woman he was chasing and delivered blow-by-blow updates of his pursuit. And this just got into this. And so here's where Plaskett met privately with Epstein at his New York apartment to solicit campaign donations. So this is that same Plaskett who's getting text messages from Epstein during during this hearing, right? And so you have her also meeting him privately in his New York apartment to solicit campaign donations after he was already convicted as a sex offender. Where is the Democrat outrage of this? Can you imagine if Trump had solicited donations from Epstein, and people would be going crazy, right? But here it is. Good morning, Lusky. If you want to share information about Jeffrey, I'd much appreciate it. I would be grateful for his support. I'd support those that may direct to assist me. I'll be in New York on Thursday at an event this weekend. Again, thanks, Stacy. So this is Stacy Plaskett, right, going to meet Epstein in his home. And so here's the Washington Post, obviously tries to cover everything. Newly released documents from Jeffrey Epstein's estate show that he appeared to be texting a member of Congress, which is Plaskett, during a congressional hearing investigating Donald Trump, and that those texts may have influenced the lawmakers' questions. And so here's Washington Post having to do it. They don't even use Plaskett's name, right? And it's really interesting to see how they don't cover things until they have to, right? Here's Collins. Where's Stacy Plaskett's text with Epstein appropriate? Jeffries. She is not violating any House rule. Collins, do you think it was appropriate? Jeffries. I have not had any conversation with Stacy Plaskett. That's the end of the story. So basically, he kind of diverts completely off of this. So this just shows you that that the Democrats are trying to stay away from this big story of and GOP effort to censor House Democrats of texting Epstein fails because why? Because you have the rhinos.
For being here. Obviously, a lot of movement up on Capitol Hill today.
This is a minute and 49 clip, so I'm going to skip that. You guys will see that in the show notes again. And there's some other great juicy stuff I want to get to, right? Here's Jamie Raskin saying, I don't think there's any rule against taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, during a hearing. It's like, what? Okay, a convicted sex offender actually is telling a congressman what to ask during a hearing. And this Democrat doesn't think there's any problem with that. This Democrat from Maryland. Oh, wow. Here's Andy Bigg saying, Stacy Plaskett wants you to know that she doesn't need advice on how to ask to question anyone. Except in 2019, Jeffrey Epstein fed her questions to ask in a congressional committee hearing, and she listened. Weird. Now, here's the actual text, and I put this on the thumbnail as well, right? And so I'm going to play this whole thing. It's about 1:25, but it's worth a listen. Let's listen.
Now, I heard recently from someone that I was seeking advice from him. Let me tell you something. I don't need to get advice on how to question anybody from any individual.
This exchange, Mr. Epstein sent a text message to the gentlelady from the Virgin Islands. He brings up Rona, keeper of the secrets. And who's he referring to? Rona Graff. That's a Trump assistant. And Plaskett responds, Rona, question mark? Quick, I'm up next. Is that an acronym?
And I love that right there because you have her asking, hey, I'm up next. Who's Rona? Who's Rona? Right? So she doesn't have the details of this basic thing that she is a assistant of Trump. And so Epstein's trying to say, maybe Rona knows something, some dirt on Trump that we don't know. So ask about Rona. And she goes, is that an acronym? Hurry, I'm up next. And so she's trying to get Epstein information on what to ask. And then she ends up asking about that. So,
so she wants to know what Mr. Epstein wants her to talk about. Don't you find that interesting? I find that really intriguing, especially since we know what Mr. Epstein was. And Epstein responds, that's his assistant. Doesn't really say much more than that. And then Plaskett starts questioning Mr. Cohen and asks about Graff. So not only was she texting, having this communication with Mr. Epstein, she's asking Mr. Cohen what Mr. Epstein wants her to ask.
Yeah, if you go back to the testimony, you'll see her ask, "Who else should we talk to? Who should we talk to?" And then she goes, "Oh, you mean his assistant?" Which she just learned seconds ago from Epstein, right? So this is very, very clear that she was working with the pedophilia oriented convicted felon, right? And she thought that was appropriate, right? The 6 Republicans who did not support the censure resolution for Representative Plaskett included Lance Goodwin, Don Bacon, David Joyce, Dan Musha from Pennsylvania, Jay Olbert. So these guys voted present. So if if these guys would have just voted with Republicans, then she would have been censored, right? Which was a common sense thing that you do. But you just can't have any accountability here. That's why it failed 213 to 214. It took one person, maybe two, right, to actually vote yes or not be present, right? So this is the game they play, and they kind of share it. Okay, right? We don't want to be outed. We can't out our Republicans in name only. We have to spread it out. Okay, McConnell did this, okay, if all the rhinos we'll make sure that we spread voting with the Democrats out so that you can still get reelected, right, and still be under control of the whole apparatus of the cabal. That's the way this whole thing works. It's very, very obvious to us who report on this all the time, right? It is very obvious. All right, I want to come back to this article. It's just awesome. So you'll find a link to this in the show notes. So make sure you go to blessedteach.com. I always say that. Go to right down there in the lower third, blessedteach.com, blessed with the number 2 teach.com. And for those of you on audio, and make sure you, at the front page, it says sign up for free show notes, right? I'm so sick of this crap. And people are talking about it. They're upset. But here you've got the Republican leadership wants to save Congressman Corey Mills tonight, so they block Stacey Plaskett from being removed from the House Intelligence Committee. So that's one thing they want. She's on the House Intelligence Committee, and she's sitting there working with Epstein. Are you kidding me? Plaskett was removed. Dems were expected to immediately bring a retaliatory resolution to censor Mills. So some people think that that's why they were doing it, is just say, hey, we're making a deal here behind the scenes, which happens all the time, right? So that's exactly what this whole hot air thing did a great job covering all this. So if you save Plaskett, we're not going to do go through a censorship. Going through that for another Republican. But again, we have the majority, so I don't know what they are worried about. It seems just lack of accountability doing deals instead, right? But that's what we're dealing with. All right, I've got all that. We'll have that all in the show notes, including all the links as well. Paid to hate. This is another big part of the story that I wanted to cover today. Is CAIR, right? Caught handing out $1,000 checks to campus anti-Semites. Right, these are the people that did the pro-Palestinian, even some of them even holding not only Palestinian but also having signs about supporting Hamas. Right, so who showed more hate than almost any human being ever on October 7th a couple years ago. And you can see some of these pictures of all these. We saw all these rallies again in Columbia University and all these universities around the nation. Well, we had a Muslim organization paying them $1,000 to be there. If you ever wondered how the hordes of anti-Semites who martyred across college campuses in the months of October 7th, after October 7th, were able to afford being full-time haters and agitators, we have the answer for you. A radical Muslim group was cutting some of them $1,000 checks. With radical Muslim groups, was this, you ask, which radical Muslim group? It was CAIR, Council of American Islamic Relations. So this Council of American Islamic Relations, they want to create discord, get us all fighting with each other. That's why they want to show, hey, act like it's like just a bunch of college students who just are upset about something, like they were in the Vietnam War. No, these are paid agitators, right? Is what we're finding. An explosive new report from the Network Contagion Research Institute, NCRI, and the Intelligence Advocacy Network, IAN, confirms that the CAIR chair, I'll call it CAIR, maybe I'll call it CAIR, and specifically its California chapter was cutting checks to students who faced penalties or disciplinary consequences for their pro-Hamas campus activism. Here you see this $1,000 checks coming to all these people. I think there was 23 of them or so that they saw here, but there's many more nationwide. So the cash was awarded from the Campus of Champion Fund, and raised more than $100,000 in donations for campus radicals, while the main group solicited $64,000 in donations. So this is massive money coming in to be able to pay these agitators, right? We knew Antifa gets paid. We know a lot of these Black Lives Matter people get paid, and now we're seeing that these campus riots, in many cases, were totally funded. Today, 78 individuals were arrested during an unlawful occupation in Butler Library and Columbia University. Remember that all happened? Well, all those people were being paid, or at least a big chunk of them were anyway. You can see here's all the places. This happened at Yale University, University of Texas, Columbia University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, University of Minnesota. It's all over the place. And all that, again, what we're finding is some money was going from this Islamic organization. CAIR has been in the headlines quite a bit lately. They made a big stink last month when a British journalist they brought to the U.S. for the nationwide speaking tour was detained and deported by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So they're basically all mad that ICE did this. Well, he turned out he had gone to London mosque soon after October 7th and urged Congress to celebrate the victory. So this is the guy they were complaining that that ICE didn't want here. Obviously, we don't want people like that there, right? Celebrating the beheading of babies, and, torture and rape in the most cruel of fashions you can imagine, murder after murder after murder. It's just really sad to see that somebody would actually celebrate that and cares wanting these people to come to the United States. Are you kidding me? So it's like, so now on Tuesday, finally, we talked about this yesterday. I reported on it yesterday. They designated CAIR a foreign terrorist organization, which is a beautiful step. That label entirely warranted, judging at the group's history and its new revelation that the masked radicals chanting for intifada and menacing Jewish students on college campuses were its subsidized foot soldiers, right? So they are actually paying for all this stuff. It's just sickening when we really look at this. I'm going to spread this out to get the full view here. And let's talk about some other things. California state schools require students to take DEI classes to graduate. Can you do that? So you send your kid to California school, and they have to take options like queer crip literature or decolonize your diet. All these DEI initiatives, and you have to take them. It's not an option, it's a requirement to take a DEI class to graduate, right? Pretty sad. And then we find that the Epstein's email. I reported on this yesterday, but I thought this is a whole article that was done about it. I'd put in the show notes. Here's the Epstein email Hakeem Jeffries really doesn't want you to see. That's exactly right. He does not want you to see the fact that he solicited money from Epstein as well. His campaign did. And so all this stuff is just coming out. They waited until they demanded everything before they start doing this declass. This is a organized effort of how to declass things that we've been studying for the last 6 or 7 years, right? And finally, it's coming out and these are the explosive weeks that we can say, whoop, this trap was just sprung, right? Trump calling it a hoax. And again, when the average TDS person with Trump derangement syndrome sees that Trump calls it a hoax, they're saying he's guilty. Or what do you mean it's a hoax? All these victims. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying it's a hoax just like Russia. It's a hoax that the Democrats were guilty of working with Russia and foreign intelligence organizations to create dirt on Trump. Here they're doing it again. It's the Epstein hoax trying to try to pin Trump on that. I was so disgusted with, if you guys are part of Netflix, just you got to get rid of that, right? Because you've got on the board there Obama, Susan Rice, and they're putting out this crap. Like they do an expose on Jeffrey Epstein, for instance, and they find the one picture of Trump and Epstein together way back before Trump kicked him out and completely became an informant against him, right? And they show that over and over and over in the episode. When you have Bill Clinton there 26 times at the island and constantly being with him, and Democrats constantly be with him, but this is part of the whole control of Mockingbird Media. It's not just the media; it's also arts entertainment, right? It's also the sports athletes. It's the Netflix of the world, as well as it goes all the way into the government, all the way into the business mountain, and even to the religious mountain, where they have bought off preachers that spew hate as well. So we are fighting all this, and that's why we had to take back all 7 mountains of cultural influence that we talk about. And it's influence. It's not complete owning all of it in a militaristic standpoint. No, it's influencing all these. We can't give it up to all the progressives. Here's the Oversight Chairman James Comer launches an investigation into source-linked groups' secretive course program. So that's interesting too. So we're finding that this followed all the money, right? The source funding with the USAID and everything. It's all going into all these different organizations, and now we're starting to see it leaking all over. There's a 1630 fund whose donors included nonprofits tied to billionaire George Soros. This is campaign financing fraud is what they're doing. They're basically doing all these different shenanigans to be able to get money to their candidates and get them elected. And they have the selection machines if they don't quite get there, right? So this is really interesting how we're slowly but surely exposing all the ugliness. If Trump has the power to ban trade, then he has the power to moderate it through tariffs. That's a whole article here by Peter Navarro talking about just that. Tariffs are the most flexible, peaceful, and effective policy instrument to regulate importation. That's the economic, diplomatic, and common sense context as the Supreme Court considers whether presidents have the authority to use tariffs. And Trump retweeted this. So this is the Trump truth section of my show. And you'll see here he posted a whole list of people talking about his speech, a tremendous speech at the UN by our great president. And people saying, this was the best UNGA address to the American president in my lifetime. That was one of the President Trump's best speeches of his term. So as he speaks each time, he's being incredibly bold, and he continues to show all these different people talking about Trump's speech at the UN was epic. So people are praising Trump for his great efforts, and that's going to continue. Here's Jensen Hong working for this AI company, NVIDIA.
This last week was a historic week. We manufactured the most advanced AI chips in the world, in the most advanced fab in the world, here in America for the first time. All of this started with President Trump wanting to re-industrialize the United States. His tariffs was a pressing agent in making this possible at the speed that we're doing. And now, shortly after, less than a year, we're now manufacturing the most advanced chips for AI here in the United States. This is just the beginning of it. With the partnership of the supply chain in Taiwan, TSMC is an incredible partner, a strategic partner for the United States in bringing manufacturing of the most critical sector of technology here to the United States. This is just the starting point, where after that, with Foxconn, Amkor, Spill, Wistron, so many of our other partners, we're going to bring the entire supply chain of building AI infrastructure back here in the United States. By the end of the next 3 or 4 years, we'll probably manufacture, we're on target to manufacture about $500 billion of AI supercomputing technology.
All right, see, all this would not happen if it wasn't for Trump's tariffs. That's the whole point here. He's talking about investment in AI. This is Trump truth, is helping to make the U.S. economy the hottest in the world, but overregulation by the states is threatening to undermine this major growth engine. Some states are even trying to embed DEI ideology into AI models, producing woke AI, and that's a big problem we have, right? Garbage in, garbage out with some of these Chat GPT and others. You got to be really careful. We must have one federal standard instead of a patchwork of 50 state regulatory regimes. If we don't, then China will easily catch up and pass us in the AI race. Put it in the NDAA or pass a separate bill, and nobody will ever be able to compete with America. So Trump's just trying to get some of the states together and actually get Congress to do their job to be able to make sure we can be the leader in AI going forward. Otherwise, we're going to get passed up pretty quickly. Mike Davis, why SCOTUS must affirm birthright citizenship order. So this whole article on here, you'll see that in the show notes as well. That's going to be pretty critical because, again, the birthright citizenship was to help the slaves that were born here, the kids that were born to slaves here. It was not designed for somebody, and Larry Ballard is going to talk about this on tomorrow night in detail about how you can have one pregnant woman just getting a visa here. The baby is born here, and even if it's a temporary visa, and all of a sudden that baby is supposedly a citizen. And then that baby can bring in like the father, and then with chain migration can bring in like over 100 people. It's absolutely crazy. With chain migration and this birthright citizenship order is a combination of just trying to destroy us by bringing in people that hate us, by bringing pregnant women that hate us, basically, and their ideology that they won't assimilate into our culture. Here's Hans Sonnedy. Now, this is the whole thing about Candace Owens. I just want to let you guys know that she's an incredibly good speaker, and like Amanda says, I believe she has a spirit in her because she's gone off the wall, right? Blaming almost anything and everybody but the left. So it just shows you that Satan's a way to try to attack the MAGA movement. Now, does she have some good points, but she just continues to blame everybody. And so this guy's kind of being sarcastic. He says, I started working with Candace Owens on the Charlie Kirk assassination investigation. You'll never believe what I found. Charlie was assassinated on September 10th. On that very same day, a Jewish guy in Miami was caught speeding and passing a red light. You cannot convince me these two aren't connected. But this isn't the end of it. I traced back a license plate of that car to a guy whose sister went to Israel on an 8-day visit 8 years ago. This is unbelievable how deep this goes. Everything's connected. So he's just kind of making fun of her, basically saying, hey, this Egyptian plane that was going in and out was basically, you take where Erica was going, this Egyptian plane was tracking Erica. And it's like, people have debunked that over and over again. She's just trying to put everything together for her show, and it's become the #1 show in America. And all with Israel hatred all over it, and also blaming everybody for Charlie's death, and clearly implicating Erica. If you really look at all the clips together, she's talking about it was bringing in a new king, as an example. Well, Erica's the lead now, right? So she's basically saying that they overtook it to purposely bring in Erica. So Candace is off the wall right now, and this person is pointing out that Candace has already been named in 2 mass shooters manifestos and their inspiration for killing innocent people. One of them even explicitly stated she pushed him to violence over the Jewish question. So one could argue she's already gotten people killed with her Just Asking Questions platform. I'm just asking questions. But again, it's all filled with this hatred of Jewish people and this accusing everybody at TPSU, everybody except for the left, the radical left. And that is the sad part of what we're seeing here with Candace. Here's, and this is kind of another sarcastic post, is exposed Ben Shapiro's sources on Candace Owens straight from Jezebel's mouth. Talking about, and so he's saying, I wonder where Ben Shapiro pulled his proof that Candace implicated Erica Kirk in Charlie's murder. Spoiler, it's her witchcraft at work, when she talks about the voodoos and all that, twisting half-truths like a pro. For all you gaslighters screaming she'll never accuse Erica. You're all lying. And so here is 4 minutes of her basically pulling this all together. And I'm going to keep this for the show notes because it's too long. But it just shows you some of the things that she was saying. I'm just playing the first part of this.
Realizing that nothing in Charlie's life was real. It's just something that keeps me up at night. Just nothing in his life was real. Like, everyone's just like, oh, let's just move on. It's so crazy to want to figure out what happened. Let's just start issuing gag orders. And the way to honor him is to give money. I don't know. There's just something really sick and demonic about the entire thing.
It's looking to me like the apparent plan was to assassinate Charlie Kirk, who had at long last faltered on the pro-Israel cause. Okay, his words, not mine. And then to stage a hostile takeover of his brand and of his legacy.
Turning Point USA, the conservative grassroots organization co-founded by Kirk, announcing his widow Erica will take over as the group's CEO.
There's 2 things happening here. There's a widow, and then there is the chairman and the CEO, and she has assumed that role, okay? So criticisms pertaining to anything at Turning Point USA that are being directed at Erica are fair. Yeah, I'm putting the fire here right at the feet of Turning Point because I am disgusted. I am genuinely disgusted. I am looking around and wondering whether Charlie's entire life was the Truman Show. None of you guys are behaving in the way that you should be behaving. But I'm starting to think that the assassination of Charlie Kirk was something akin to a regicide, right? The assassination of a king to install a new ruler who the king would have never approved of.
He left me a blueprint in all of his journals, but more so than that, I was his vault for literally everything. He shared everything with me, his vision, his dreams.
In the event of his untimely death, like, you know, he just, in the 3rd notebook, he was like, oh, and if I accidentally get shot on campus, here's what you should do.
And this goes on for quite some time. But you can see that's clearly throwing Erica under the bus, even though she says she's not, right? Because Erica is the head of TPSUA, and she's saying that they're putting the king of, and Charlie would have never approved of the new leader. Well, that's Erica, okay? So she continues to just, wow. It's really crazy to see where Erica's going on all this stuff. And so here's a meme of her, you know, basically she's smiling. You can see her smiling on things, doing all these weird things, and basically with Charlie in the grave, she's soaring to heights. Remember, a lot of negative media often does well on social media, and she's really mastered that. Here's the man of memes saying, oh man, that Katie Hobbs scandal just went DEFCON 1. This is way uglier than anyone thought. The Arizona Democrat governor is now staring down a full-blown racketeering investigation. Here's the receipts. A foster care group home operator, Sunshine Residential Homes, quietly pumped $400,000 into Hobbs' campaign, her inauguration fund, and the Arizona Democratic Party. And right after the cash hit, Hobbs administered approved a massive 60% rate hike for Sunshine, the only provider to get such a deal. Payments jumped from $195 to $234 per child per day, unlocking millions in taxpayer dollars for one politically connected company. They even expanded Sunshine's contract from 280 kids to 322 kids. The timeline basically showed Sunshine drops $200,000 to Hobbs' campaign. The state denies the rate hike. Sunshine then donates $100K to Hobbs' inauguration. Suddenly, Hobbs approves the rate hike. Sunshine sends another $100K, and the Arizona Republic blows the whole thing open. So this is interesting. So Katie Hobbs and is being exposed in this. It'll be fun to see what ends up happening. Federal agents arrest liberal terrorists in Charlotte for warning illegal immigrants of ICE raids. I voted for this guy says. So we're still seeing ICE active out there, making our different cities safer, even though the Democrats are trying to keep the National Guard out and doing everything they can. Activist judges trying to stop Trump from doing what needs to be done. But now I want to flip over to Big Pharma for a little bit, and as we wrap up the show, guys, and we'll move into hearing from God and the teaching with beautiful music and word and worship after this. But don't get mad. It's just the data. Aaron Jerry breaks down the cost of measles on public health. So this is measles, right? A 20-year Japanese study of 100,000 people. So this is not like 2,000 people or 1,000 people, which would be a good sample. 100,000 people, right? Showed those who had measles had a 20% less cardiovascular deaths, 66% less lymphoma, 50% less ovarian cancer, suggesting getting measles conferred a survival benefit on the population, right? And this is a 4-minute clip I'm not going to play, but that's the summary of exactly what is happening. God's not stupid, right? Sometimes you get things and it actually has a benefit to you. And so having massive vaccines that have massive side effects to try to keep you from getting measles, when there's hardly any death rate from measles, is crazy. There's going to be more damage caused by far with the shot in your arm than there is by getting measles itself, which actually has benefits. These are things that people don't really look at. Here's somebody talking about the similar thing on Joe Rogan's show.
Well, they're private corporations. That's what's nuts. The private companies own hospitals. They're private,
So that's probably why they can do it too.
Yeah, hoping they're there for your best interest. Yeah. What they're there is to make the most money possible, and one of the ways they do that is they're incentivized to give you certain medications financially incentivized to give you certain pharmaceutical products, and they make more money if they do that. I had Mary Talley Bowden on the podcast. She's a respiratory physician, and she, doctor, whatever it is, she was saying that if she vaccinated all of her patients, she has a very small practice, if she vaccinated all of her patients for COVID, she would have made $1.5 million. Wow. Like, that's motivation. Like, that's not...
For sure.
Someone's not going to... They're not going to give you objective advice unless they're a really good person like she is. They're not going to give you objective advice. What they're going to say is, hey, they say you should take it. I say you should take it too because I want to go golfing.
Yeah.
I want a BMW and I want to go golfing. So take it.
I don't care if you're in a fucking wheelchair in 3 weeks at a myocarditis.
I want an M5. Yeah. I've got it picked out already. I want the carbon interior.
Anyway, it's just really interesting how the big pharma thing's being outed in the right, but the left is continuing to hide it. But again, they control politicians with a $300+ million lobbying budget, and they own all the networks and news agencies, etc. So again, we have to take the ability for big pharma to advertise, because it's not that they're have incredibly great advertising talking people into taking big pharma medicine. They overpay on purpose and they inflate it, and so all these companies that are distributors like Faith and Freedom TV, right? If I took big pharma money, I'm not going to talk bad about big pharma if I have $100,000 a month from commercials from Pfizer and Moderna, right? You can see that's how they own the networks, own the distribution companies, own the politicians. It is something that we have to stop, right? Guys, before we wrap up, I did want to talk about this one more time, and this is Rumble Premium. I was going to try to talk about this yesterday, and that didn't work, but I have a QR code up there that shows this. And again, you probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that's creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience with Premium, and you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off on an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO, that's STUDIO, at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO. No ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal. All right, so go use that QR code or whatever. I love just supporting awesome things like Rumble here. With that, guys, we're going to go to the other channel. And so what we'll be covering, this is where you can find us on Rumble. It's called the Word and Worship channel right there. And you can also go to that on Faith and Freedom TV, Faith with the Freedom and TV. So, and that's exciting. Right in the middle of the screen there, you can see Faith with the N, freedom.tv. That's where you can have that web app. Make sure you bookmark that. And guys, we really would appreciate your help in just downloading the apps and giving 5-star reviews so we can get the growth going. We got great content there. Juan Savin's latest videos are all there. He gave us personal permission to post his public videos. We have 3 live 27x4 channels, including Biohackingville TV. It's all the way you can keep yourself healthy with all the great people like the artists, Dr. Artis and Dr. Smith and Dr. Ely and Dr. Tenpenny, all giving content into that. You guys are going to enjoy all the content on faithandfreedom.tv, as well as join us for this worship. I'm going to be teaching on hearing from God, day 6 of this, and you're going to hear stories from Amanda Grace, stories from all these great people such as Donna Clement and Nathan French, Manny Johnson, Timothy Dixon. All that information is coming. With that, we're going to be on the other channel in about 15 minutes. God bless you guys. Well, it looks like I have a couple more minutes left, so I'm just going to, I'll just see if there's anything else we want to cover. I know what I'll do. I'll just cover a quick summary of what this is about. This is what I'm teaching on. It's a 7-day journey on hearing God's voice in sentences, right? The enemy seeks to drown out the living voice of God, convincing that divine whispers are mere imagination, coincidence, or silence. Satan desires you to believe that hearing God clearly, sentence by sentence, is reserved for a select few or lost to ancient times. But the Lord who spoke creation into being and still guides his sheep by name has promised an intimate, ongoing dialogue with every believer. He has woven his promise through Scripture and confirmed it through countless modern testimonies of personal prophetic direction. You can hear God's voice today, and this 7-day journey equips you to move from vague impressions to full, flowing sentences of divine guidance. Drawing from Rick's Blessed to Hear book, be coming out in probably late fall, early summer. Interviews with prophetic voices like Nathan French and Amanda Grace, and the unshakable foundation of God's Word. This guide leads you progressively from awakening hunger through surrender and obedience to rising as a discerning, harvest-focused weapon for the Lord. Right? So that is what we're going to be teaching on. And day 6 is going to be all about cultivating clarity, journaling, having a quiet space, and your discernment, right? And you're going to have all kinds of stories that you're going to hear from these various people. I'll read just the introduction of this. It says, welcome to day 6 of your journey to hear God clearly every day. The foundation is laid. Now we sharpen the blade. Today we learn whispers into written words you can stand on. Create space where his voice is the only sound. And this is making room for God, right? This is what this is all about. To build a filter so strong that nothing counterfeit gets through. Everything we teach today comes straight from the prophets and teachers who have sat in our B2T interviews and backstage meetings. Timothy Dixon, Manny Johnson, Marty Grisham, Stacy Whited from Flyover Conservatives, Amanda Grace, Mary Crowley, Nathan French, and others. you will hear their real stories, their exact words, and the miracles that followed simple obedience. And then, so this is what we'll be covering over another channel, is this, again, Word and Worship on Faith and Freedom TV or Rumble. The first section we'll get into is the discipline of immediate recording. So you record, you hear something from the Lord, you write it down right away, even if you're not quite sure if it's Him and you're going to be testing it, right? But with no filter, you just write it down. The second part is going to be, and we'll get stories about how these other great people of God do that. The second thing is carving out undistracted stillness. What are some of the tricks and suggestions from these beautiful people? And then testing everything and prompting everything against the truth, right? So that's what we're going to be going over in the lesson. And I teach this in between our beautiful worship music. So the presence of the Lord comes when we're there, right? So when we just are worshiping Him. So that's what we're going to be doing. That's what we call Word and Worship, right? Word with the N, worship. Again, you find that right here. Word with the N, worship on Rumble, as well as Faith and Freedom TV on the live channels. God bless y'all. With that, we'll see you guys here shortly.
Elitist media deceives, but Faith and Freedom TV amplifies truth. Our world-leading platform delivers news, teachings, worship, movies, and music rooted in biblical values and constitutional patriotism, inspiring faith and liberty. We inspire, equip, and amplify Christian patriots to share powerful stories of faith, family, and freedom. With live events, thousands of on-demand videos, and access on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, Android, and iOS, we're transforming culture globally for God and country. New content is coming to ignite faith. Join our mission to counter deception. Visit faithandfreedom.tv and download the Faith and Freedom TV app today.